Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Still trying to recover from this promotion that we just saw. So overwhelming and a huge body of work.
That's a lot of shots up there.
Yeah. Welcome to India, Mr. Spielberg, and thank you for being with us today. Obviously, this isn't your very first visit to India, is it?
No, I've been here several times before, but not. It's been 30 years since I've been back to India. I was here. The last time was in 1983.
Were you making films then?
Yes, Temple of Doom, and I was here on my own, backpacking through the country.
Where did you go?
But everywhere.
Really?
Yes, Benares, Calcutta, Delhi, Jodhpur, Jaipur, a lot of places. But I started here in 1977, and I shot a very small scene from my movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind in a very small town, about 3-hour drive outside of Bombay.
Oh.
And that was I
Not
was here.
Very many people know that. What was it that impressed you most about India at that point of time, when you were backpacking?
I think that people were welcoming of a foreigner, that they would invite me to eat with them. They would invite me to stay with them. They didn't know who I was. It was after I had made Jaws and after certainly Close Encounters came out. It was so great that nobody knew who I was. I remember that as being one of the happiest moments of my life. The relative anonymity of just traveling through India.
Is that something surprising for you, or is that something that isn't very prevalent in the United States of America?
No. There's no anonymity there. You know, you can be an actor in one television show that everybody watches, and that's the end of your privacy. It's over.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Spielberg, you started off very early in your life. I believe as a child you once took an 8mm camera and made your first film with your mother being in the star cast.
Yes, I did.
What inspired you to do that?
Well, I think for one thing, the first time I picked up a movie camera was because I was wrecking my electric trains when I was about 12 years old. I was crashing the two trains into each other and making a complete mess, and sometimes the trains would break and my dad would have to take them back to the electric train store to get them fixed, and he told me if I ever broke my trains again, he would take the entire set away. And we had an 8mm Kodak movie camera. And I remember coming home from school one day and setting up a couple of shots. And I photographed the trains crashing. And luckily the trains didn't break, but I had it on film. I got one train going left to right. Then inside the camera I stopped. I put the camera on the other train, keeping the screen direction right, the other train going right to left. And I set the camera down, shooting straight out at the track, and both trains came together and crashed. And then what I wound up doing was looking at that piece of film, 90 seconds of film, over and over and over again, and it satisfied my need for some reason to break things in those days. And in that sense, I discovered the power of cinema.
Right.
And I started making little movies after that.
Yes. Your first film was Duel.
Yes.
Very unusual topic, very unusual subject. A truck on a highway chasing a man in a car. And I remember seeing it, many, many years ago, and just overawed by the concept of that film. What drove you to making a film like that?
Well, the great thing about movies is before the director, there must be a writer. And Duel was totally conceived by Richard Matheson, a great science fiction fantasy writer. And he had written this amazing story, and I was the lucky beneficiary of having my assistant at the time read the story. It was a short story in Playboy magazine. And my assistant came over to me, and I was just a young television director, but we all had secretaries. And she said, I think this is right up your alley. I think you should make this into a movie. And she gave me the Richard Matheson short story. And then she found out that it was in fact going to be a TV movie for ABC And she encouraged me, if I liked the story, to go apply for the job, which I did. I went out and I kind of imposed myself on met the producer who was producing it and tried to talk my way into getting the job. And that's how it all began.
The one thing that really caught my attention in Duel was the very effective use of sound effects. Every time the truck would appear, there would be just the sound of the truck, which was almost frightening, the way it was cut. Was that deliberate?
Well, the truck, had a presence that was very important. I really thought it was a monster movie. I mean, I approached it like a Japanese Toho monster movie. Instead of Godzilla, I had this 18-wheeler, obviously empty because it didn't blow up at the end, tanker truck. And there was something about creating a kind of oral threat to it, a real, auditory menace. And so we had some really young and new sound effects artists working in television at Universal at the time, who came up with a leitmotif to give the truck a kind of personality through just sound effects. So a lot of the truck is a sense of the vibration, a very low bass whenever the truck came by.
Yes.
They recorded the truck going by all the time, but then they did some doctoring to the sound and got the truck in a much lower, deeper register.